Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. Liftoff.
Hello. What is up, guys? Hunter Klein here, bringing you this week's episode of Interplanetary Monkeys. You guys know the deal. Let's get into it. Life's moving, life's going. We keep on pushing forward. Things are weird right now. This week, I had an odd epiphany about the differences between the rich and the poor. Now, I'm not going to make any profound comment about the income gap or income equality, or I don't even know if these are accurate buzzwords. And I'm not trying to make a crazy political stance on the solutions to balancing wealth within human blah. Okay? I just had an epiphany. Again, through the scope of looking down on Earth, looking down at humans. How funny is it that our lower middle class, your general human, is battling against things like COVID, the COVID resurgence, the Delta variant. We're battling against institutional racism. We have huge problems with how humans interact with each other. We're trying to find jobs. We're trying to put food on our tables. Going through arguably probably one of the hardest times in the last couple decades for humans. Our lower to middle class is struggling, going through a very odd time. Meanwhile, Jeff Bezos and his rich colleagues / friends are traveling to space in rocket ships for fun, getting out of the rocket and just laughing maniacally. Okay, we talked about that. This is that clip a couple weeks ago, maybe, Jeff Bezos getting out of the rocket. But that image of Jeff Bezos getting out of the rocket, laughing like the richest person you've ever met in your life, and juxtaposing that next to Delta variant resurgence, hospitals are overflowing. It's just such an odd thing. They just live in different worlds. People with money live in very different worlds. With more money comes more problems. I don't know. More problems, maybe, but less severe problems, absolutely. Okay, absolutely. News story of the week, guys. This is, I don't know if I want to call it hilarious, sad. It's just interesting, I think, is a safe way to put it. A realtor was showing a home to a man in Wyoming. Okay, so a realtor takes in a man and his son into a house, and the next door neighbor called the cops on them because they thought they were breaking and entering into the home. And it's important to note here that both the realtor and the man and his son going into the home were black. Okay, so it's hard to imagine that there wasn't some level of profiling here, especially considering the police showed up as pretty much a SWAT team. I can just imagine an old white grandma sitting next door calling the cops like, I think there's something serious going on. Okay, this is sad. But again, humans are dumb. I think this is it's sad but funny. And I feel very weird saying that that's funny, but very interesting to me. And let's be honest. This happening in Wyoming, we're not surprised. If I had you guess what state this was going down in, if I gave you all the notes, all the information, best guess, what would you say? I'd probably guess Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, maybe Minnesota. Yeah, I think we'd have a pretty high success rate here. Now, last week I talked a little bit, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I talked about how COVID culture has been calming down in Austin. How, if you're just visiting the area, you would have no idea that we are post pandemic. Okay, you rarely see masks. You rarely hear people talk about COVID. It's almost non-existent here, especially because I'm living in a smaller suburb of Austin. I'm about 30 minutes from Austin. You could consider it a small town relative. There's not a lot of population, right? So it might as well be the middle of the country in Nebraska, right? That equivalent of pandemic awareness and alert. But things appear to be climbing. I haven't talked about COVID news in forever, but I feel like I'm somewhat required to, considering what's going on in not only Texas, but the country. Okay, so yesterday, state officials sounded the alarm on the rising infections here in Austin, stating that the local state is in a pandemic. Austin is in a pandemic, and it is dire. Okay, so the situation is dire. We are no longer relaxed anymore. We're no longer not having any issues. Get the vaccine if you want. It is now, those not getting the vaccine are dying, according to news, according to your article. Some being clickbait, important to note. Some being clickbait, important to note. But hospitals in Austin here are overloaded once again, and COVID cases per day for the U.S., not just Austin, are hovering around numbers we saw back at the beginning of the year. And this is interesting. My number one worry, and probably one of your biggest worries, is job, income. And I realize health and safety of other people should be the main issue, but as far as my life and what I truly feel, what I'm truly worried about, it is income. I am not in school anymore. Now I'm kind of in the same playing field as a lot of you, I assume. I don't have this safety net of, well, I'm in school, they'll pay me regardless, I can do online teaching. No, as far as major income sources, okay, I am a bit worried, to be honest with you. Okay. What's going to happen? Actually, I'm not sure. I don't think anybody is. And of course, my worry is slightly reduced. I'm slightly less worried because I live in Texas, and considering their COVID history, I may be able to consider myself safe, but I'm assuming that a lot of you guys are not in the same boat. Okay, living in places a little more, right? California, Arizona, New York, definitely not Florida. I'm sure there are some people that their jobs are at risk again. And I'm not really sure. I haven't looked too much into the Delta variant because, to be quite honest with you, I don't think it's very necessary. I just know there's some type of mutation. The infection rate is rising once again. Our vaccinations are not the most effective against stopping the retraction of the virus, and it continues. All I know is that I'm taking the situation a little more serious. Right? I'm going to be pulling my masks out once again just in case I need them, carrying them wherever I go. To further exemplify the lack of COVID awareness and regulation going on in my area, I do not even know where my masks are. When I first got here, wore masks everywhere. And I will tell you that I stood out like a sore thumb. Okay, I was one of the only people, whether it be in the grocery store, whether it be at the liquor store, wearing a mask. Eventually, I got so far down in my head as far as alienation that I just stopped. Like, I'm not going to be the only one. I'm not going to be the only one. And as a result, I don't even know where my masks are. But I'm going to be ordering some more and getting prepared for another wave. Getting prepared for another wave. I know some states are already kicking back up mask mandates, so we'll see what happens, guys. I know California's on that list. I'm pretty sure Arizona, I'm pretty sure Nevada, New Mexico are a few of the 9 or 10 states where you have to wear a mask now until we get through this Delta variant resurgence. Now, obviously my biggest worry is income, but I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. This is a hot take. I miss the COVID lifestyle. I am such a loser homebody, home dweller, that I miss working from home regularly. Being able to eat whenever I want. Being able to work on my body, work out whenever I want, lift whenever I want. I miss that lifestyle. I'm going to be straight up with you guys. I do. I do. It was a nice, easy life. Now, it's important to note that at that time I had access to an outdoor gym, which I don't here, which would absolutely crush me and probably flip my perspective completely. Because all I really need is a computer, internet connection, and a gym, and I'll be completely happy. But part of me misses the lifestyle. Part of me misses that lifestyle I was living in Arizona. And it's so hilarious. It's a hilarious sight, I should say. I'm scrolling through news stories proclaiming COVID resurgence, talking about this dangerous pandemic, and every now and then I will scroll past a climate change article. It's like we have a lot on our plate right now, friends. Climate change is obviously a serious issue, but it is so irrelevant right now compared to the issues that we have on our plate. Climate change is damn important. Don't get me wrong. Again, I want to make this very clear. But we have some more immediate issues going on. And now that my life is so stressed out, guys, now that I am starting a business that I don't know if I'm going to succeed, now that if I fail this business, I'm not going to have food on my table next month, and COVID restrictions might limit my job, and I care about the environment, but I am not going to recycle anytime soon. And I don't say this to sound like an idiot or try to be a tough guy. I say this because being able to care about climate change is a luxury. It is a luxury, friends, and I have it good. Hey, imagine someone in a worse situation with no job, barely able to make the ends meet, applying for welfare this month. I'm sure some of these people are smart enough to realize that climate change is important, but for a majority of people, there is too much going on. There are too many immediate issues to seriously combat climate change on an individual level. Yeah, I barely put food on my table this week. I'm eating ramen only and some hard-boiled eggs, but you know what? Let's recycle. Let's drive down to the plant and drop off all our cardboard and aluminum. And I do think I appreciate people still bringing up climate change. I appreciate climate change communication and people talking about the subject. But I think bringing it up right now and considering it like a threat to humanity and an issue that needs to be looked at immediately is somewhat out of touch at this time in society. With the resurgence of the pandemic, unemployment down. I'm not sure if unemployment's down, but I'm assuming because of the recent pandemic, the last couple of years. With so many humans just fighting to survive, making a statement like climate change should be your biggest worry right now is a little out of touch. Again, I want to note, I am all for climate change. I started a climate change organization when I was in undergrad, when I was in college. I gave a talk in Edinburgh, Scotland, about the importance of climate change, education, and forming groups around it. I care about this stuff. I think it's extremely important. My point here is that my life is way too rough, way too stressful for me to spend any units of energy on worrying about climate change and how I can affect it right now. And I'm sure a lot of other people, especially considering the state of the world, are in the exact same boat. Maybe if I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars and had a nice home and a car that I didn't have to worry about and a job I love, that I could sit back at the end of the day and say, yeah, let's start recycling. Let's go to a climate change rally and see what's going on. Let's put some money into some climate change organizations and help out the cause. Absolutely. But I am on the edge of my seat, friends, and a lot of people are in the same boat. Okay, I think bringing this up right now and proclaiming it as the biggest issue screams I'm in an extremely good spot. Okay, if you have the time and energy right now to worry about climate change, you are doing well. You are either in college having your parents pay for your rent, or you are a rich 28-year-old working from home. That's really the ultimatum I think we landed on here. But again, I think they're important issues. I think they need to be talked about. And I think as we get out of this COVID situation, as the world begins to return or settle back to normal, these types of articles, this type of focus and dire need of changing in this area in conservation will have its place for sure. Speaking on the same topic, it's crazy how long humans have been focused on the same few major issues. Okay. Here I'm saying we don't have time to worry about climate change. We have so much more serious issues going on. It's crazy how few of these issues there have been in the last 2 years and how prevalent they have been on the minds of almost every human. You guys remember the beginning of 2018? What were we worried about? I think there's always something us humans are worried about as a society. What's the main hot topic in the news of this year? I just thought back, like, okay, I don't have time to worry about climate change, but I used to. What was going on in the world back then? 2018, the beginning of 2019. What were we worried about? What were we complaining about? Climate change, I think, was one of them for me anyway. An aggravating president. A president that looks like a Cheeto. We're all just bashing him. I think that was a big thing. I think my point here is that whatever it was so unimportant in hindsight, it's hilarious. I feel like a majority of the news in 2018 was just bored journalists hating on Donald Trump. I'm not for or against it. I'm just making a statement here. Looking back on 2018, I should have referenced some news articles from throughout that year just to see what we were worried about. What were we complaining about? Compared to what we have going on these last couple years, huge issues against racism, riots, COVID. It's so funny. It's so funny, guys. It's such an interesting time. It's such an interesting time, and my life changing hasn't helped at all. Now, I think we're going to call it there for news, guys. That was actually a kind of a heavy news day. I found a lot of interesting stuff or things that I wanted to bring up while I was looking through Google News this last week. So heck yeah. That's I would like to start moving towards that a little bit. Getting a little more news in the show, making it a little more current events, keeping people up to date, giving the listener a little more value. It's just some weeks the news is boring, and I have no interest in what kind of bikini Megan Fox is wearing on the beach, right? I think those are absolutely ridiculous. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And to be honest, when I read news articles like that, it just bums me out and I close everything. I just give up on the process. But let's move to me. Let's move to what's going on. I know we've things have been rough, okay? And I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but I've been very open about it. My journey the last couple months, moving to Austin, things just not being what was expected, ultimately being pushed into a corner where I had to make some big decisions and take a big risk. That being starting a business, essentially. Okay, it's hard. Okay, mainly because of the stress. Obviously, Hunter, the stress of starting a business. But for me right now, it falls into a either we succeed or we don't eat. That is why when I said this is probably the riskiest decision of my life, I was being 100% genuine with you guys. This is a make it work and survive, or fail and struggle to make rent payments and start eating less. Okay, it is really everything on the table right now, and it's pretty crazy. It's a lot, friends. Okay? It is a lot. We are stressed. Now, I think it's important to note that I believe that this will be successful. I believe that if anybody can do this in Austin, if anybody can start their own sports performance company and become successful in Austin, it is me. I believe that I am the one to do it. Absolutely. I have the confidence. I have the information. I know I can pull it off. I'm passionate about it. I believe I can do it better than anybody. Blah, 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 blah. I honestly believe all of that. But every now and then, that doubt and fear creeps up on me and gives me a little anxiety kicker. A little anxiety smack in the ass. Earlier this week, I got so, that anxiety builds up. The heart starts beating. You start feeling like you're in danger. I had to take a nap. I literally just fell asleep on that couch right behind me. Passed out, woke up, felt a lot better. But sometimes it does creep up on me. Now, if it doesn't work out, is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. Unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to reach out for help, but it's not the end of the world. Okay? And I know that. But again, think about the leap, guys. I moved down to Austin pursuing a job that I thought was going to be my dream. I moved to a home. I calculated where I was going to live based on the distance from this job, and it did not turn out anything as planned. Absolute worst case scenario, and it's not negative. I don't want people to be dragged down right now. I don't want people to feel uncomfortable listening to this. It's not negative, okay? But the severity of the situation, I'm trying to paint the mental picture for you, the pressure that I am under. There is an absolute need to succeed. Wow, that was kind of cool. A little rhyme for you all. An absolute need to succeed, and it really does sometimes feel like, especially when I don't think about the whole picture, that this is a make or break situation. A make or break situation. So things are up there. Conversations with potential clients are literally like survival. We're really, really maxed out. I will say at this point in my life, for whatever reason, job aside, everything aside, somewhat of a new topic, just about early adulthood in my mental space. Things have become weird. There's a lot of good staples going on in my life right now. I'm still maintaining fitness. I'm looking better than I ever have. I'm better at my job than I've ever been. But something about leaving the education sector, something about leaving school, something about no longer asking questions daily has made me a worse person, I believe, if I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I'm no longer writing in my journal daily, crossing off checklists. I no longer have crazy ambitions to accomplish even the smallest goals throughout the day. I find myself struggling to get things done that I need to, and all of which have never been issues in my life, at least for the last 4 years. And I cannot pinpoint what it is, and this is the biggest challenge in my life right now, is figuring out what happened. Where did I lose the spark? And how do I get it back? Why do I feel like I don't want to just go for the simplest tasks? Why do I feel a burden on my shoulders when I need to go to the grocery store? Why do I feel like a burden on my shoulders when I need to do something to help my business? I'm very blah right now. Life is very blah. Not in too much of a negative way. I don't think it's too serious, and I don't even think your average person would even sweat it. But because things like this podcast and my constant taking inventory of what's going on in my brain and my life and how I'm thinking, I'm shining a very bright spotlight on some of the negative factors of my person that have arose over the last 6 months since arriving to Austin, and it's a very strange time for me. A very strange time for me. Part of me thinks it's just the real world hitting, leaving school, school where your success is measured by numbers on a paper, which is easily measurable. I got an A on this test, good person. High grades, good person. Good scores, successful human. Right? These measurements that are very easy to go off of, very easy to accomplish. Here's the rubric. Here is how you become a good person. Here's how you become successful. Go do it. Easy A. There's none of that for me anymore. And I think the process of losing that, you could say a framework of life, framework of how you gauge how good you're doing, has been removed. And without that framework, I'm somewhat settling. Obviously, we're comparatively to other humans, we're not settling. We're starting a business. We're doing very well in fitness. We have a podcast. These are not normal things. I realize that. But comparatively to Hunter from 2018, 2019, we are not doing well. And that's something I need to work on as a person. I got to figure this out. I spent a lot of time thinking to myself. Unfortunately, right now, we're pretty stressed out. So introspection is not really on the top of the list when it comes to activities to work on. But I suspect that in the next couple weeks, the next couple months, who knows? I might not even have internet to record the podcast, to be completely honest with you. But things will balance out. These next 2 months are going to be some of the riskiest move of my life, probably one of the 2 biggest months of my life. A big decider in how things are going to go. I have no fucking idea what is on the other side of August 16th when my business officially launches. And as a result, life is interesting at the moment. Okay, life is interesting at the moment. We'll see, friends. We'll see, friends. One of my favorite things about this project is that imagine having access to your weekly thoughts in 20 years. Like, think about being a 40-year-old and being, what was I doing August of 2019? What was I thinking? And being able to go in and quite literally tap into every single emotion. I put it all out there, family, on this podcast. I pretty much flat out say I'm quitting my job before I quit my job. I'm talking about Tinder dates I go on. I'm talking about anxiety attacks I'm going through. We are the most transparent. Okay? And that's why I say directly tapped in to what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling through any part of my life. That is what this podcast is at the very least. At the very least. Yeah, we're seeing growth. Things are going well. But gosh, there's just so many upsides, guys. I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, but going back and looking at the YouTube channel and seeing what we have created over the past 2 years is so awesome. Obviously, the YouTube channel is just like visually really appealing because the thumbnails and scrolls. Even going to the Spotify and just scrolling through all 85 episodes. It's interesting to sit back, think about all the times that I thought about stopping or that I didn't want to record. And thinking, we've done this for 85 straight weeks. Look at what we've created. Look at what consistency has made us. Okay? And I am very proud of that. And it's been one of the few things in life that holds me down, that holds me together. I'm very happy when I leave this podcast, when I upload everything. I'm very excited to record it more often than not. Things are a little rough right now. But it's beautiful, guys. It's a beautiful anchor. And I really suggest that, if you're thinking about starting a passion like this, go for it. Don't expect a lot off the top. Okay, you're not going to get rich instantly. You're not going to get 100,000 viewers instantly. Do it for the passion. See if you like it. And if you do, stick with it. Okay, take the leap, friend. Whatever that may be for you, take the leap. Okay? Try to make it a little bigger than yourself, I guess, is the big takeaway. Okay? All right, weird episode this week, but you know the deal. We push through. We make it happen. I watched the Black Widow movie. Didn't like it. Lackluster, in my opinion. Wasn't a fan. Okay? Big Marvel fan, big superhero movie fan, but Black Widow didn't really enjoy it. It felt empty. It really did. Okay. Okay, we're ending on a weird note today, but that's okay. When is this show not weird? Okay. Awesome. Alrighty, we'll end it there, guys. That's it for this week's episode of Interplanetary Monkeys. This is Hunter Klein, and you'll hear from me next week. Peace, peace.